Hey, welcome to the Point of No Return podcast, episode number one. I'm super excited about starting this podcast where I'm going to be bringing in guests, just people I've met here in LA that have built or are part of some type of community, movement, or creative atmosphere. And I don't want to only highlight their communities, but also their personal stories, struggles, and inspirations. Now, I would like to quickly mention that this is all still a learning curve for me. And I did experience some technical difficulties with the quality of sound and video. So, just a heads up if you're watching, the video does cut off towards the end. And with that said, it is a true honor to have as my first guest Mr. Hari Bhakta, creator and director of Mantra House in Culver City, California. I asked him a question only meant to get vocals for the sound check, but his explanation and his essence prompted me to start the episode then and there. And so I hope you enjoy our conversation and that it brings some type of value to you. And so without further ado, Hari Bhakta. Oh, yeah, I wanted to ask you. I guess I got to talk right into it, right? I wanted to ask anything you want to talk about. You said innovation, essence, and actuality. What's up with that? Just kind of a little bit. What do you mean by that?
So, just in terms of, everything that I do is in that the way I grew up was I started off with this clothing brand, Celestial.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I envisioned it is that I always wanted to be different and I always wanted to innovate a clear message that was still with style, was still relevant, and it was powerful. And so, as I got older, every time that I did projects or that I do a project, I'm always thinking about innovation and how to um, connect that to actuality, which to me means like the actual essence of human life,
Mm.
and essence, which is like the essence of something. It's like its purest form, and so everything that I do is always like actuality, essence. Um, those words come to mind, so that it's always clear, fresh, and impactful.
Dude, that's dope. Let's just get started. I'm already recording, so let's just go.
Cool, cool.
So you're my first guest, episode number one. I'm
Yeah, thank
excited.
you.
Thanks for being here. I came across you through Mantra House. I was at the Hare Krishna temple, right? That's the name of it.
Yeah,
In Venice or is it Culver City?
it's Culver City.
Culver City, yeah. And I don't know, I think it was like a Wednesday night or Thursday night, and one of the speakers there, they were having a lecture, and after the lecture, he invited me to Mantra House. He's like, "Hey, you should check Mantra House." And so we went, and ever since I haven't stopped going. It's been like I want to say like 4 years. When you guys were at the house in Culver City, I think you guys have most of them have been in Culver City, right?
Yeah, first one was in my apartment and next to the temple.
Okay.
Second one was at a house again next to the temple, but a different place. And then the third one was at another house, which I think that's the one that you started
I
coming to.
think so. Yeah.
And that one we were there um, after COVID as well.
Oh, you were there for a while.
Yeah, we were there for a while.
Okay. And now you guys are
Now we are at Veda Yoga, which is the yoga studio.
okay.
It's 2 blocks down from the temple.
How'd you guys get connected there?
Well, the yoga teacher there, she's the owner of the place,
Mm-hmm.
and she's been practicing bhakti yoga for 10 years, 11 years, and during COVID, yoga studios took an impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can only imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so she was excited to collaborate for us to bring people from the mantra house to her studio.
Dude, that's a blessing. That's
Yeah,
dope.
yeah, it was. At first, I was thinking, nah, it's time for us to find our own place.
Right.
And so we were trying to look for places, but with COVID, it was just difficult.
I know if you put the intention out too in like whispers of like Mandra Mansion,
Oh
you know.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think I hadn't attended, but I think you guys did a couple of those special events, right?
yeah. We did about two of them, and they were both really successful. People
Mm.
came, they had a blast, and we haven't had one since early 2019.
Okay. All right. And all right, let's kind of backtrack a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
What is Mantra House? What's up with that? Like, I came across it like that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm at the temple. We're reading. There's a reading lectures and telling us about. I don't remember exactly what he was telling us about, but it was from the book, which is called
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita. And yeah, I show up that first. I think that same week when he invited me. I went that same week with my friend. I actually went to the temple because my friend was interested,
Mm.
and I had been there when I was younger. I was telling you, like,
Yeah.
I kind of like saw the museum there, and I would go for the lectures. And anyway, the first day I go into Mantra House is like completely different than the temple,
Oh yeah.
um, which is always interesting to me because the the people it attracts, it's a mixture of people and ages, but for the most part, it is a younger crowd.
Yeah.
And so, like, tell me, like, how did all this Mantra House come into play? What is Mantra House? What inspired that? Like, and I'm guessing you're the original
Yeah, like
thought
the
of it.
yeah. It first started well, I have to go back to my roots, not
Okay.
too far. But when I first started coming to the temple,
Yeah.
the Krishna Conscious Temple, I didn't go to the temple first. I was 19 years old. I went to this place that they invited me called the Bhakti House.
Mm, where's that at?
That was in Culver City,
Okay.
in the same place. Um, and I first came as a just a brand new 19-year-old student who was I was interested in like meditation, spirituality,
Okay.
and well, actually, I wasn't so much interested in spirituality. I was just interested in the experiences that I was having from smoking weed.
Mm, I see.
Yeah,
Which
and
were?
which were man, there was so many. It started off with me just thinking as to who I was as a human being
Mm,
and how I was like treating my parents, my siblings. In the mind of a 19-year-old, I wasn't so used to the experience of smoking weed up until I graduated from high school.
okay.
And so I started hanging out with friends who were used to smoking. And for them, like one blunt was, just normal. But for me, like one joint was almost like taking a psychedelic
Mm-hmm.
because it was like experiencing just myself outside of myself and trying to think of like what the purpose of everything was. And so, long story short, that interest in learning about the universe like hit me like a ton of bricks, as they say, in the sense of I wanted to know what my purpose was, and I can tell you like many stories about my experiences with weed, but to summarize all of them, um, it went through different phases. First, it was who I was as a human being and how I was treating other human beings, especially those close to me, like my family members.
So it brought like self awareness.
Yeah, self awareness
Mm.
and trying to be a better person. And then from then on, it was like a veil of matter was just like taken away. Where now, because I was trying to be a better person, now it was about how can I be a better person myself. And at the time, it was me pursuing my goals. As a 19-year-old, it was about, um, you know, trying to go to the most parties,
Mm-hmm.
trying to pick up as many girls as possible, and walking my way through life and just trying to pursue my goals, whatever I wanted to do at the time. And so, because I started pursuing my goals, my experiences with weed was now that I was feeling like ecstasy. Every time that I would smoke, and I would just come from school after pursuing some of the activities that I wanted to pursue, then, I felt invigorated and I started feeling like a sense of inner joy.
Okay.
And I correlated that inner joy to me like feeling like I was God. And so as soon as I started thinking that way, then I started attracting things into my life.
Mm.
And simultaneously, those experiences with weed throughout my journey of me trying to fulfill my goals, there was times where I would like smoke weed with a bunch of random people, and I would feel like I was reading some of these people's minds, and it just felt like I was tapping into a sense of psychic ability um, within
It's
the
like
midst.
hyper awareness.
Yeah, hyper awareness, and in the midst of that high, it's like it makes perfect sense while you're high. And once you go back to normal, it's like, whoa, that really just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you clear experiences as to how it was crazy.
And this was this like um, right away on your cannabis journey, experimenting with that, or did it take some time to get to that type of awareness? Because personally, myself, I remember, yeah, I was probably like 18, 19, and the first couple experiences were all giggles, munchies, and just like a whole new, different experience. And it took me, I would say, maybe about a year to start having some type of like self awareness or reflective thoughts, meditative
Mm.
thoughts. How was that for you?
Yes, so I remember the first time it was in 10th grade. And that
Okay.
was like the eighth grade high for me.
Oh, you a bad boy. Or that's good though, right?
Yeah,
It
it
depends
was.
who you ask.
Yeah, but I only did it once at that one point.
Okay,
It
and
was
how was
just,
that?
it was, well, it was twice. The first one, you don't really feel it that much. At least I don't remember feeling much other than just thinking that I was high and trying to be cool with my
Right.
friends. But then the second time, it was I entered like this state of experience where I was just stoned. I would
Okay.
walk from one room from one side of the room to the other, and I would just think to myself, "Wow, did I just move?"
Hmm.
And just now that I can remember, it was just the cloudiness of the room, and just being a 15-year-old, just not really having deep thought
Right.
up until the point that you leave the room, and the whiff of fresh air comes, and I start thinking about, whoa, my mom, she thinks like I'm at baseball practice,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm over here high.
You felt some type of guilt, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
major guilt
Yeah.
because I started feeling, man, my mom's at the house right now. She's probably cooking lunch for me,
Right.
and I'm over here just high. So
Right.
it's massive guilt,
Yeah.
and regardless of that guilt, I had to come home. So going home and pretending that nothing is wrong with clear eyes. And so those were my first experiences, and that guilt um, allowed me not to smoke weed, or motivated me not to smoke weed
Yeah.
through high school.
Okay.
But college is a different experience,
Right.
and you feel like now is the time to explore. Yeah, and then transitioning forward with, trying to be a better human, pursuing my goals,
Mm.
feeling a sense of happiness. And then it was a mixture of experiences with UFOs. Um, and I remember I have a few stories. One of them is revolving cannabis and a UFO sighting.
Okay. What was this?
This was in South Bay, in South Bay Mall, or at the South Bay Galleria.
Okay. Yeah. That's like in Torrance, huh?
Yeah,
Around
close to
there.
Torrance, close to Redondo, close to
All those
Hawthorne.
verdes. All those
Yeah,
right there. Okay.
yeah, right there. And I used to work at the van store there, and
You would work at the van store.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think my coworker had called me in to see if I could work for a few hours, like
Yeah.
2 hours. So I went, and I finished the shift, and then I had a little joint that I wanted to smoke on top of a parking structure. So I drove up to the parking lot, and I already had somehow or other already encountered the people that introduced me to Bhakti Yoga.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a book on my passenger seat, The Science of Self Realization. And so my plan was just to, smoke a joint and then try to read the book. So I ended up parking, and in the midst of me being high, I didn't even feel motivated to open the book because my thoughts just started overpowering me, just in the sense of like my life at the time. And in the midst of my thought process, I was looking at this palm tree overlooking the city, and within the palm tree, this little ball of light came out.
And this was nighttime already?
Yeah, it was nighttime,
Okay.
and the little ball of light was like I just in the middle of it, I didn't even think much of it other than like, what is this? And this ball started emitting like smoke or cloud, and in the midst of my high, the cloud was creating this formation that was reminding me of my life at the time. And immediately I came out of my car just to get a closer look.
Like what the
Yeah, and the ball started coming towards me.
No way.
Yeah, and so I
What
felt
how big was this?
it was. I think it
You
was
said was it far away, close?
it was maybe about 20 feet away,
Oh, that's not too far.
20 to 30 feet,
Okay.
and this little ball was like a drone or something that's connected to a bigger, like an observer type
Yeah,
of thing.
I see.
And so it started coming towards me, and I felt like a helpless puppy. So the only thing that I knew what to do was just close the door and like move back, and then whatever that was recognized that I didn't want any contact or whatever, and it just faded away into the sky. And so those were some of the experiences or a glimpse of some of the experiences where I felt like there was something deeper going on.
Okay.
In relation to my first UFO sighting when I was 12, and then fast forward, I knew that there was something, mysterious about life.
Right.
And since I already had the book Science of Self Realization, a lot of my questions were already answered within the ancient texts of India. But going back to your question as to how the mantra house started,
Yeah, yeah. So
so
these are events that like started kind of like expanding your mind, like you weren't just chasing anymore, or you were kind of
yeah,
starting like wonder and discover.
yeah, there was so many things that occurred in my life that it was inevitable for me to, at the age of 19 and 20, to encounter this ancient tradition of
Mm.
India, which I now practice. It was just inevitable. I wasn't going through a hard time in life where I wanted to seek an escape
Okay.
with spirituality. It was just I was at the right place at the right time, met the right people, and it was just inescapable.
And what's your practice?
Bhakti yoga
Yeah.
or Krishna consciousness.
And how'd you come across that?
I came across that. I was 19 years old. I was going to Santa Monica College,
Okay.
and at the time, like I was saying before, I was just into partying, having a good time.
Right, which I think at 19 we're all influenced by our peers, or we're influenced by music, we're influenced by TV.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, we think that's what we want to do, but we're actually trying to mimic what we see, right?
Yeah,
The chase of whatever, whether it's opposite sex or money, or or even bad bad stuff like hard
yeah,
drugs and stuff like, especially in college.
yeah. It's crazy looking back because I remember in my high school days, it was just a normal thing to go home and watch VH1 or Keeping Up with the Kardashians
Right,
or Jersey Shore.
right,
And, we're constantly bombarded with like that's a normal way of life
right.
as you go off into college and growing up. And so it was just a natural flow of life that, okay, now it's time to party
Yeah.
and do all those activities.
And so you're 19, you're in Santa Monica College, and that's how you come across.
Yeah, it was so basically, just to be clear about it, I was in this phase of life where I wanted to pursue my goals. And so the priority of my goals at the time was to, talk to as many girls as possible. Like
Okay.
that was my vision of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I would just train myself to, I see this girl over there and I'm attracted to her. And let me just go over there and start a conversation.
Right.
And just coming out of my shell and trying to be fearless. And so from rejection to success, then it became like a momentum where me and my friend, that's what we did for fun.
Right.
Like just go out there and try to, um, get a number, try to get a date or something like
Yeah.
that. And so
I
that,
mean, it could be a challenge. And
yeah,
you guys weren't afraid of it, that challenge.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was the combination of that friend that I was hanging out with. It was just that's what we did for fun.
Right, right.
And other friends, it was difficult because it had to be me and him, and then we can do it. If it was somebody else came and it was just me going out there, then I felt like there was no fire.
So that, I mean, not all college kids are like that, but that's typical. Like, all right, let me
Yeah,
talk to as many women as I can.
yeah.
So at that point in your life.
I'm at that point in my life, and I somehow or other I meet this girl that, according to my vision, was like the perfect angelic woman that I've ever seen.
Hmm.
And she was,
So dreamy.
yeah, she was dreamy. She was on a different level of consciousness.
Oh, okay.
She was like, compared to the girls that I was used to speaking to,
Yeah.
she was just like, I couldn't understand her.
Okay.
Um,
In what sense? Like, what?
well,
I want to know. Now I'm intrigued.
first she spoke like 5 languages
Mm.
fluently. She was 18 at the time. I was 19, and she had asked me like how. First, I saw her walking down the quad, and I decided to hop over some bushes and just approach her because I knew that I have to speak to this woman.
Okay.
And I asked her, "Why do you look so happy?" Because she was just smiling down the quad.
Okay.
And she told me she looked up at the sky, and immediately as soon as she started speaking, I noticed that there was an accent,
Hmm.
and she started saying that this, that, I was dancing, I went to Mexico, and then she mentioned the word God. And as soon as she mentioned the word God, I thought to myself, like, oh, wait, now it's time for me to tell her that I'm God. But then she switched. As soon as I was thinking that, she switched the question to me, and she asked me, why are you so happy?
Hmm.
And then in my mind, the first answer that came to my mind was that I used to listen to this rapper, Lil B,
Okay.
and I went through different phases of the rappers, Lil Wayne, Nas, but I was in my Lil B phase.
New York, right?
He's from the Bay Area.
The Bay Area. Okay.
Yeah, and so he's not such a good rapper per se, but he was just so positive
Hmm.
that my experiences with me being positive through weed just like resonated with his music.
Okay.
And so he had this one song where he said, "I'm happy because I'm alive."
Hmm.
And so that was the first thing that came to my mind. I told her I'm happy because I'm alive.
Yeah.
As soon as I said that, it was like something clicked in her, and she immediately grabbed me from the hand and took me to go sit with her. Like she had to tell me something.
Okay.
And I'm sitting with her. I noticed that this girl's on a different platform
Okay.
because I have nothing to contribute. From the very beginning, I had nothing to contribute to the conversation because she was so dominant. Like she was just far more intelligent. Like whatever she was practicing was allowing her to be more not only self-aware, but it was like she had such a grip on life.
Yeah.
And
So
so
you recognize that.
yeah, I
You recognize the
recognized that.
Shakti energy
Yeah,
present.
and I thought like, whoa, like this girl's a hippie. I didn't know how to define her.
Right.
This girl's a hippie. She noticed that I had a bit of an accent, and I told her, yeah, I grew up speaking Spanish, and she was from Kazakhstan, but she spoke fluent Spanish,
Okay.
like way better than me. And it was just not only was it captivating, it was mysterious, and I felt like, whoa, this person's way out of my league. And
What did she tell you though?
she told me she sat me down, and immediately she started doing her homework. It was weird, like the way she was acting and trying to talk to me at the same time by telling me her activities. That she was just in Mexico, they were dancing and chanting, and she had this energy to her that guy. I was talking to her in a public place,
Yeah.
and guys would just come up and try to talk to her
Yeah.
simultaneously. So I felt like, whoa, this person is like on another level,
Yeah.
physically attractive, but at the same time, her aura,
Like free spirit. Yeah, and an
yeah,
aura, right?
yeah, and just dominant in the way of life. And so I didn't get to say anything other than nothing really. she just kept control of the whole conversation. And I was about to ask her for her number, but she just was one step ahead, like playing chess. And she asked me to write my number on her notebook so that, after that, it would just be weird for me to ask her
Okay.
for her number. And so then she left it at that. And then she told me, oh, I'm actually going to have to do homework now. So pretty much telling me to leave.
Yeah.
And so my
Polite,
friend, yeah,
politely asking you to leave. Yeah.
yeah,
Give me your number. Get out of here.
yeah, my friends were looking at me like I had just scored. And but I go back to them and I'm like, whoa, this person's on a different level. Like I can't relate to her. She's like a hippie.
Yeah.
That's my words. I was so used to just having a regular conversation about a party, just like regular down to earth, low level consciousness type of conversation.
Mm. So it was
And
like one of your first times experiencing somebody with like a higher consciousness and aura, like you said, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking like, yeah, this girl's not for me. She's beautiful, but she's something beyond her physical beauty. Like that it was so out of the ordinary. And so I go home and I'm thinking, yeah, this girl's not for me, but I just couldn't stop thinking about this person. She left like an imprint in my consciousness.
Mm.
And so I go to school the next day, I think the next week, and I'm again trying to chat up another girl, and it's not working out with this other girl that I'm trying to talk to. And then immediately my friend's like telling me, hey, like this other girl's calling you. And it turned out it was a girl from Kazakhstan that was calling my name. And so it was like a sign of life. I thought like, whoa, I get to see her again.
Right.
So I go and, it was always difficult for me to ever contribute to the conversation,
Mm.
but she was always sharing her life. Like, oh, I just came back from the temple. And then as soon as she said the word temple, I was like, what, a temple? Like it just got more mysterious and mysterious.
Right.
And she would always like cut the conversation short because either somebody else wanted to talk to her or she had to leave somewhere. But throughout that whole semester at Santa Monica College, it was just inevitable that I kept running across her, or we kept crossing paths.
Right.
And the more we crossed paths, the more information I got from her. Simultaneously, I started being more open minded, and I said, I shouldn't just try to speak to girls. Let me speak to the rabbi
Mm.
that's trying to talk about Judaism or the Jehovah Witness
Right.
or the Mormons. And so through that mentality, one day I was walking down the quad and there was this monk wearing full orange, and he asked me if I wanted the Bhagavad Gita, and he had a hardcover book in his hand. And immediately, as soon as I looked at the book, I thought to myself like, whoa, like for sure, like there was no doubt about it that I wanted that book. He gave it to me. I gave him $5 as an exchange, and I looked at it and I thought to myself, I'm definitely gonna read this book. There was something about it that like I knew that it was for me.
Right.
And fast forward to the next semester, because I thought like, whoa, we're about to go to the next semester. Hopefully, I get to see this girl again.
Mm.
And yeah, she appeared again. She was there, and now it was like I was, that desire that I wanted to know more about her life. And so then she invited me to this place after me trying to talk to her. She finally invited me. She's like, I want to take you to my temple.
Okay.
And then to me, I thought like, well, finally, I get to hang out with her.
Right. Right.
And so she invited me to go to this place called the Bhakti House.
Okay.
I lived in Inglewood. I grew up in Inglewood most of my life. So going to Culver City was like something new.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, that's on the other side
yeah,
of La Cienega.
yeah,
Yeah, you gotta cross over.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so she invited me to go there. And so I drove. I was excited. I thought, here's my chance. This is going to be our first potential date.
Right.
And so I get there and she's excited to see me. Like she was jumping up and down. But she's next to her, there was a monk. And then as soon as I get there, I get off the car. She's like, oh, I'm so happy that you're here. I want to introduce you to my monk friend. I actually have to go to my dance recital, and here's this monk's gonna take you to this bhakti house.
No way.
Yeah. So, and I didn't
She's
have
like,
time to think.
she's like God sent.
Yeah.
Like she's like, this is my mission. I gotta take this guy to this person, and I'm still gonna go on with my mission.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I didn't have time to think. I was 19 years old.
Right.
I was in this foreign land, Culver City,
Yeah.
and I'm being walked to this house by a monk. So let me just go with it.
Yeah.
I enter the house and I see the monk that gave me the Bhagavad Gita sitting down.
Ah.
And like I recognize him. I'm like, oh wow.
It's like if it was all set up for you.
Yeah, I'm like connecting the dots
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's like smiling at me because he recognizes me. And then I sit down.
It's like heaven on earth.
Yeah, I sit down and it's like this whole new crowd that I've never
Mm.
experienced in my life. Like, people outside of being, people that are there to listen to a spiritual discussion
Yeah.
from all walks of life, from young to old. And I'm just listening to this monk speak about his life and how he came across bhakti yoga as at UC Santa Barbara, and he was in search for truth. I just remember his whole conversation, and I was just super grounded. The smell of incense. It was close to like after summertime, so the sun was still up while it was 7 p.m.
Mm.
And
Yeah, those good. It's
yeah,
like summertime, right?
yeah,
Yeah, those good summer nights in LA where it's still warm. It's getting late, but the sun's still kind of out.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, I love that feeling.
And so I'm there and just listening to the monk speak, and I'm having a good time.
Mm.
I was so used to not sitting on the floor, so like my legs are all twisted up. But yeah, it's funny looking back because the first person that I met at that place is a person that runs a Veda yoga studio.
Oh, where
S-
you are now?
Yeah, where we're at now.
Oh wow. Okay, so you guys go back.
Yeah, we go way back.
Okay.
That was in 2011,
Okay.
so 10 years.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, I was fascinated by the Bhakti house. I didn't get to hang out with the girl, but she's still asking me how it was, and I said, "Oh, I had a great time." And
Which is funny because you know what? You do that kind of stuff now. Like you bring people in and then you kind of just walk away now.
yeah, that's
not
true.
not really, but like like now
Yeah,
you're like the lighthouse in a way with like the community you guys have built. And people come in like I know when I go, that's what it is. People are like, "Oh, hey, look, talk to this person," and then they'll walk away to go get food or go to the bathroom or whatnot. And like that's just how it works. Like it's interesting how influential this person was and how like her um way of talking, way of being, way of like when you're describing this person, I'm seeing somebody free, but also very aware and purposeful on their movements,
yeah,
and how influential and how that you you kind of still have that energy you but somehow intake that energy in many ways,
yeah.
Wow, do you still talk to her? Or
No,
have you seen
actually,
her?
she actually left America.
Mm.
She left America to Australia to go marry that monk
Oh,
that
okay.
was next to her at the time. And the monk is actually he's a teacher of mine. We're not
Okay.
so separate in age, but I looked up to him,
Yo, that's
and
what's
there
up.
was a bit
Okay.
of a competition,
Yeah,
at least in my own mind.
of course.
But I
That's the
was,
ego.
yeah. If there was anybody else that could be with her,
Yeah.
then it would be him, and I was
Mm.
happy.
That's honorable.
Um,
Yeah.
and so,
Hey, shout out to them, right?
yeah,
That's what's
exactly.
up.
And so I thought, at the time, it was just inevitable that I had came across this path
Hmm.
because of what I was searching for, without my activities. It was just inevitable that, simultaneously I had started this clothing brand called Celestial.
When was that? Around what time?
That was the same time, like 19 years old.
Okay, so it was all kind of. So
Yeah,
you're still like in kind of like youngster old ways, but now you're kind of expanding and
yeah.
looking for a path or like expanding your horizon, like maybe like opening that third eye a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, yeah, okay. So that's when that starts.
Yeah, it was all interconnected because
It's
going
like
back to my
carrying the past, but also
yeah,
going into the future.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that's deep, dude. Okay.
Because simultaneously, like I was telling you about my cannabis experience, um, through my cannabis experience at 18 years old, that's when uh, I had an experience with edible where
Mm,
I had an edible empty stomach.
that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, at my friend's house, we start eating, then we're playing video games. He gets scared because he thinks it's real. Actually, first we were watching Clockwork Orange and the movie by Stanley Kubrick, and he thought that the first scene was just too graphic, at least in his heightened state. And I'm thinking, dude, the movie's cool.
Yeah.
And then so we started playing Call of Duty.
Mm,
Start playing Call of Duty. He starts freaking out because he feels like he's in the game, and I'm like super, just chill high. I
yeah.
wanted to keep playing. He turns it off and he put the NFL channel. That was like his comfort zone,
Okay.
watching the NFL channel. And so I'm sitting there looking at the NFL channel, just they're talking about the Super Bowl, how like the Super Bowl is gonna happen, and they just the way it seemed was like, whoa, this game is like gladiators. The background music, the way they talk with so much passion about the game. I was just absorbed in their emotions. Next thing you know, I lay my head back and it's like I enter a whole new zone. It's like my consciousness just left my body
Okay.
and I started envisioning like different forms of life from a fetus to a lion roaming the jungle to like just different humanoid species
Yeah.
to seeing a fetus to ultimately seeing these majestic beings with elongated necks and elongated hands, almost like a tortoise uh, mixed with like a dinosaur, but extremely like beyond human form and beyond anything that could ever appear on Earth because it seemed like as they were shifting their bodies, they were shifting the universe. And
Whoa.
as an 18-year-old, I saw that vision. And the first word that came to my mind was celestial.
Mm,
And I came back to my body. And in the midst of my just fogginess of being high, I looked up at my phone and then I Googled celestial. I didn't even know what it meant.
yeah.
And it said divine of the heavens.
Mm,
And that became like, okay, celestial, celestial. Combine that with skateboarding and clothing. Then I knew, okay, I have to start this brand. So that was part of my journey because I wanted to start this brand. I wanted to embody the brand. So, what does it actually mean to be divine? So, simultaneously, I come across the girl, I come across these teachings, and it was just, this is what I have to do. And I was so used to partying and just having a good time at parties,
yeah.
but there was a deeper calling that I didn't want to be a hypocrite
Mm,
and do the opposite of that lifestyle. So I was carving out this new path, and it was like Neo taking the red pill, or the I can't remember which one it is. I think it's a red pill.
take both of them. I mean, at this point,
Yeah,
right?
and just going into the rabbit hole.
Mm. So you start the brand. Why?
S
Like, I
yeah,
get you were influenced. It was a moment that influenced you, but like, what, 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 it, what's the purpose behind it? Like, what do you
yeah.
feel
So
like would like to be influential or to have like because it's also like it feels like all right spiritual, but it also feels like ayo like also human, you know?
oh yeah, yeah. So it was just a mix of the culture at the time.
Yeah,
At the time, I was working at Vans.
yeah,
I wanted to something that I always wanted to do was to just be cool.
right.
And I used to look up to the circles of brands like Supreme, Diamond. Diamond eventually became played out, but I was really into Supreme. And I wanted to carve my way out to that industry. So,
Like the hundreds.
yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And I wanted to create something that was innovative, that was of essence, that was of actuality. And so those words just connected me to, philosophy, wisdom, like powerhouse of knowledge that's not corny, because sometimes you can go that route into a brand and make it corny, but it has to be impactful, like a masterpiece, like a symphony,
Right.
like a thunderbolt with this beautiful form. And and so that was my vision.
Yeah.
And I was able to motivate some of my good friends from high school to take part in it. And we started saving up money, started to invest on a weekly basis on the project. And I was the designer. I was pretty much doing everything, even the sales on the street at Fairfax. I would
Mm.
sell shirts out of my backpack.
Good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was just like simultaneously studying the wisdom and pursuing the girl. It was like a surge of inspiration. They say that the greatest inspiration in one's life is, at least in a man's life, is a woman, or vice versa, like your partner. And so there was a great surge of inspiration, a great surge of creativity. I think many artists could relate that when it comes to romance, when it comes to, love, there's a lot of inspiration that comes about. And so I was super inspired, and I just sat on my computer and was doing Photoshop, and to me, creating masterpieces that I felt like I need the world to know this.
Mm.
And
Right, because you're having these visions, you're having these experiences, realizations, and you're trying to put that into a visual thing so people can hopefully be inspired as well, and then maybe have their own inspirations or visions in their brain just by seeing what you are putting out there.
yeah,
That makes
exactly.
sense. Yeah.
And simultaneously studying philosophy, it led me to, start reading the books of these people that were inviting me to these places. So I started reading the Bhagavad Gita, and I started reading it in Spanish because it's my first language.
Okay.
And it was just mind blowing,
Yeah.
because I was also studying UFOs at the time, where I would constantly look up the new, where's the new sighting, where is it happening? And you would come across like very amazing videos of sightings that happen, like on the spectrum of the sun. I guess NASA has these cameras where you're able to see the sun.
Right.
And so this blogger was posting videos of these anomalies that were captured in the sun,
Mm-hmm.
that they were either sucking some plasma out of the sun, or that they were just motherships that were 20 times the size of Earth.
Yo.
Yeah, just like mind blowing stuff
Yeah.
that if someone were to be high and think about this stuff and they're really in tune with trying to search for truth, it's like, it resonates that, wow, like you want to seek life and the mysteries of life, the mysteries of the universe. So as I started reading the Bhagavad Gita, I went to chapter 2, where it starts talking about Krishna speaking to Arjuna. That's a conversation. And Krishna starts talking about the eternality of the self, the
Okay.
soul, and connection to reincarnation. How the soul is indestructible. It cannot be harmed by any weapon, any external element, any outside source of nature. The soul is indestructible. So therefore it cannot be harmed by fire. Therefore there's living entities in the sun. And
Mm.
so when I read that, it was just impactful to the core, where I had just came across this ancient text, and it's completely resonating with everything that felt true to my heart, especially in connection to metaphysics, UFOs, things of that sort. And I was studying philosophy, so I was studying Plato
Yeah.
and the realm of forms, and Socrates, specifically Plato, where he speaks about that there's a pure realm of forms, that everything that we experience in this realm is actually a reflection of the pure realm of forms. And the more I dug deeper to the Bhagavad Gita, the more you start getting an understanding of the structure of reality and metaphysics and the spiritual realm. And it was just perfect. Like, I felt like this is a perfection of philosophy. Like in my philosophy classes, every time that I would hear about a philosopher, I would immediately connect to the Bhagavad Gita, and I would immediately see that the Bhagavad Gita is further elaborating on that point that that
Hmm.
philosopher is trying to make.
And when is when is that written?
That was written 5,000 years ago.
So that's a trip. Like you're talking about truth, wisdom, knowledge. Like they were already on it 5,000 years ago, and here we are thinking we got things figured out, and we are figuring things out. And then we reference to that, and it's like, oh wait, it just gets even deeper. It just gets even
Yeah.
bigger. Like, whoa, I, we've been here for humans have been here for a long time. Consciousness has been here for a long time.
Yeah.
That's a trip. You're tripping me out.
Yeah, it's mind blowing just to talk about the Gita itself, because the Gita is like an expression of the human experience,
Hmm.
but to the maximum extent where you can connect every single experience to what's being said in the Gita. It's like a work of art. It literally means the song of the supreme, the song of the supreme source, the song of divinity. And so it's almost like a poem. And one thing that comes to mind is that the the goal of the Gita is ultimately love.
Hmm.
And so it's
Yeah.
almost like if somebody takes a DMT trip and they see the darkness of their life, and simultaneously they see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is love. And so that's also expressed in the Gita to the full perfection of that experience of being in the darkness, being confused, being in anxiety, feeling like this major trauma, and coming towards the end is just the goal of life is to love.
Yeah.
And so it
Yeah.
was it was just an impactful text, and from then on I knew that whatever experiences I had in life, from meeting the girl to starting the brand, it all that had to lead me to this practice. And it was inescapable because it just resonated with everything that I was searching for at the time.
Hmm. That's deep, man. It feels like it was all kind of happening all at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a trip. Aliens, awareness, um, it's like deeper thoughts,
Yeah. A girl.
philosophy, love.
Yeah.
It was more of a crush.
Yeah, exactly.
But that inspired you. And then
Yeah.
it led you to deeper. She was like a dancing goddess just
Exactly.
guiding you. And you thought, but it wasn't even about her. It was about what she was walking you to.
Yeah. It was far more valuable.
So tell me, like your practice, like what does that consist of? Like,
So my practice consists of meditating on beats. I'm doing mantra meditation.
what kind of beads?
It's they're called japa beads. So they're
Okay.
made out of tulsi, which is a sacred wood,
Okay.
and there's 108 beads. And on each bead, you just chant the full mantra.
Which is
According to the Bhagavad Gita, the the dharma of the age, the Yuga Dharma,
mm,
is to chant the names of the divine.
okay.
And so the names of the divine that are said in the Gita, one of them is Krishna. And so the full mantra is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And so you chant on each bead the full mantra, then you move on to the next bead. And it's like you're focusing on sound frequency with these ancient mantras. And at first it was my parents were freaked out. They were
Yeah.
because I grew up Catholic.
Right.
So at first, when they saw me we have a bead bag where
Yeah.
you put your beads in and you meditate with them. So at first, when they saw me with the bead bag, and I had no idea who Hari Krishnas were.
Right.
Just had no clue. All I knew is that I started reading the Gita. I started to meditate. I wanted to become vegetarian,
Yeah.
and at the time I stopped drinking, smoking, and that was my practice. Just going to school, reading the books, going to this place called the Bhakti House, and chanting on my beads. And so my parents would see that and they would freak out. They would think that I was getting brainwashed, or they immediately knew that this is Hare Krishna.
Oh,
And
so you think they knew?
Yeah, they knew.
Okay, so they were a little familiar with it.
They were a little bit familiar. They just knew them that they just chant in the streets.
Okay, yeah,
And but to me it was like a whole different world.
yeah,
And my mom was happy, but she was also concerned
because of her beliefs.
because of her beliefs, but
Yeah.
she was happy that I was no longer coming home drunk.
Okay, yeah,
That
right. That makes sense.
yeah, that I was like, you know, just staying at home on my computer designing. And
And in our parents' religions, fear is a big thing.
yeah,
Fear, and with fear in those religions, it we start imagining like hell, and where's our soul, and where are we gonna spend eternity in? So they care about us. They deeply care about us, and that's why they're afraid when we start exploring these different spiritualities, lineages, and I have compassion for them. I understand why, because we're in an age right now where we're in the age of awareness and information, and people around our age start questioning certain things. We're no longer just following, and we also, not just that, we also started digging for information and for truth, and for what is all this, what is this all about, right?
exactly.
And so those generations came from structure. Follow this,
Mhm.
follow this, don't question it, you know and if you question it, so that's why I have compassion, because fear and religion is ingrained when we're children into our, not just our conscious but our subconscious,
It's
right? And
true.
so when somebody, especially your own seed,
Yeah,
grows up and tries to like shatter that or question that, it's a core belief that it's very hard to be open-minded about, or take a step back and be like, wait, why is my child pursuing this, or what is this new thing that they're pursuing, and why aren't they doing what I'm doing? It's I'm saying it in a nice way, but most of the time they're angry,
definitely.
judgmental. Everybody reacts different, but
Yeah.
judgmental, anger, confusion, fear, all the things that come up when it comes to um, certain religions and other religions, or even meditation,
Hmm.
or even simply yoga, where like they some other religions might paint those things as communicating with um, lower frequencies, just to say it in
Yeah.
that form, um, and in reality, if we take the time to experience these things ourselves, we realize that we're actually just connecting with ourself in a deeper level, and then actually with the creator. And regardless of what we call that creator, or regardless what book we might follow,
Yeah.
the point is that we're experiencing self-love and love by
That's facts.
breathing, by meditating, by practicing some type of form of yoga. Um, and I believe that those things can, regardless of religion, those things can be practiced.
Definitely.
It might add to your other practices,
Hmm.
and your other lectures that you read. But yeah, okay, so your family kind of knew what was going on. They're kind of scared. You mentioned 108 beads. I was wondering, why is it 108?
Traditionally, it's just always been 108. They say because there's 108 Upanishads.
And what is that?
Upanishads is a sector of the Vedas
Okay.
that gives specific instructions.
Mm,
Some sectors of the Vedas, like the Puranas, they're just stories, but the Upanishads give like specific instructions.
okay.
Um, yeah, I don't want to go into the rabbit hole of the Upanishads because one
Yeah.
of them comes to mind, the Sri Upanishad, and
Okay, but
yeah,
that's why it's 108.
yeah, that's as far as my understanding goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most common.
Okay. And so that's what your practice is, chanting. You have your beads.
Hmm.
I mean, you're connecting. And also, the thing about chanting and meditating that I've realized through like my own experiences is that, or any ritual really, that we repeat over and over, even prayer or words of affirmation. Some people might see it as like silly or like what is that? But the point of it most of the time isn't exactly for the moment. It's actually for the future in a way because we're consciously doing it, but we're gonna benefit from it or we're gonna expand subconsciously as we move forward because you're chanting the divine names, right?
Yeah,
You're chanting the divine names. You're chanting the divine names, right? But then you go on with your day and you might
exactly.
come across something that might trigger you or might try to trigger you. But if you have this frequency in your if you're conscious of it and in your subconscious, you're no longer gonna respond in a way that might be violent or hateful. You're gonna be a little bit more grounded and centered because
Definitely.
you're walking with the name of God, not just consciously but subconsciously.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain frequency that it's like you're tapping into,
Hmm.
and the shift of life is it's like you're tapping into a certain frequency.
Right.
And so my practice is that I have to do meditation for 2 hours, this chanting this mantra. And the reason why I did it, I didn't do it as like a blind person that, oh, let me just do this because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
It's because of the experiences that I was having with the practice that interconnected with my search for truth, my experiences at the time with astral projection, with sleep paralysis, with,
Oh, we haven't gotten into those things yet.
yeah, and
Those
it,
can be very deep,
oh yeah,
deep experiences that unless you've experienced it yourself, it's hard to explain or put into words
exactly,
what you've gone through or what you've experienced.
yeah,
And for somebody that might not have had those type of experiences before, they might think you're crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I even have friends who do the meditation as well,
Yeah.
but they grew up. It's part of their culture, like from India.
Okay.
To this is my practice, but they never had any of these mystical experiences. They never smoked weed
Right.
or drank, but it's just ingrained in them that this is what I do.
Right.
And but they also sometimes think like that that's not real.
Right. Right. And cannabis and certain yogas, or if not all yogas, are it's frowned upon.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that it's just the Vedas dissect like the full spectrum of reality. So astral projection, contact with lower beings, anything within the realm of magic as well is also in the Vedas. Because the Vedas, the ancient texts of India, are not just limited to self realization and enlightenment, they're ultimately different rituals that one can perform to
Mm.
receive in this life without incurring karma. And so that could be
Mm.
wealth, that could be fame, that could be even military intelligence. Um, everything in the Vedas is pretty much on the platform of how to live a better life to ultimately reincarnate into a higher being or a higher level of reality. And so there's sectors of the Vedas that are considered to be like the cream of the crop, I guess they say, or the jewel of all jewels. And books like the Bhagavad Gita, they give you the source of the Vedas, which is beyond matter, beyond even the higher realms, which is directly to the spiritual realm.
Have you ever had experiences of like past life?
The closest thing that I had was um, just looking at myself in the mirror
Yeah.
at a very young age
Okay.
and just tripping out that, whoa, like I'm in this body,
Mm.
and is this really me? And just
Were you high?
I think on some I was, and on some I was sober.
You were just a kid.
Yeah, I was just a
Yeah,
kid and
yeah,
just tripping out on that. Um, I did have an experience with shrooms once.
yeah. Mm.
as I had started the practice, where it's a whole story,
Yeah.
but basically, because of the knowledge, I wasn't afraid of death. It was like I had it was only one cap of shroom, and I was at Palos Verdes, and I was looking at the rocks that were crashing into the ocean, and it seemed like the formation of everything was turning into skulls,
Whoa.
and it just seemed like it's inevitable that this world is death.
Right.
Like it's in Sanskrit, it's called Martyaloka, like the planet of death.
Yeah.
That everything is gonna cease to exist.
Right.
Everything surrounding is gonna cease to exist. And because I had already read the Bhagavad Gita, and I had already started meditating and practicing, then the core essence of that high was that I felt extremely grounded.
Mm.
I felt like a philosopher, where I was extremely grounded to spirit,
Yeah.
where there was no fear of death. And at the same time, rather than, how, as they say that, I think it's an ego trip. That's what they call it, where um, you sort of think yourself like you're like a tiny speck in the midst of the universe and you're like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because of the knowledge, my ego took a reverse trip,
Mm.
and it was, rather than being humble,
Okay.
it was about like, whoa, I have this knowledge.
Yeah.
And I just felt extremely invigorated,
Mm.
like I was ready to just conquer death.
Okay.
And
Are you trying to shoot? Yeah, I see.
yeah, and amidst that experience, we had another experience with a friend. I mean, same day, where this UFO, it was, it sounds out of the ordinary, but basically, this star that we thought was a star, um, I got to tell you like how it happened. So we went towards the end of the of this cliff where it's overlooking the ocean.
Palos Verdes.
Yeah, and I started feeling, just super happy. Like so much so that the people that were there, I was thinking, why don't we talk to each other?
Mm.
Like I would try to make eye contact with them. They would look away, kind of shy, super sober in their world. For
Right.
me, I was just, on the shroom. And so I decided to break away the conversation, and I asked a person that was on the fence, you think we can hop over this fence and just go to the edge of the cliff? And I guess because the way they saw me, they just started like smiling and they said like, I don't know. And then they walked away, him and another friend. And I felt like I had unlocked a new achievement type of experience. Like, okay, I broke away from the awkwardness.
Right.
Now let me hop over this fence and let me go experience the ocean.
Mm.
And so I'm sitting down, I'm looking at the stars, and I stand up too quick. So immediately I get lightheaded. So simultaneously amidst being high on the shroom and being lightheaded, I look up at the sky and it's like I almost get to see like a different spectrum of color in the sky, almost like a grid. And as soon as I saw that, my friends pointing out that this star just came out because some twinkling light. This was about 6 p.m.
Okay.
and it's close to dusk. And this thing that looked like a star, we were the only ones there, started coming towards us, like moving. And because of my previous experiences with that palm tree UFO, I just knew that if I were to step back and hesitate, then that object was going to stop. And so subconsciously, me and my friend were frozen. But I just knew that in order for this thing to stop, we had to step back. So I stepped back and then it just froze.
Mm.
And me and my friend, we just didn't know what to do. We were just amazed.
Yeah.
So all that knew how to do at the time, that was in relation to that experience, was just chant. So
Ah.
we started chanting the mantra because it was, out of the world. It was an out of the world experience. That was just a moment that we shared.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the way it took to my ego, was that we knew that this object was not going to leave. Like we had to leave it. So
Mm-hmm.
we went over to my car and we started playing this lecture by this monk. The monk's name is Radhana Swami,
Okay.
and the monk's lecture was about, he was telling the story of this saint from India who was an avatar of a higher being
Mm.
of the wind god, who had taken the form as a human. The human's name was Madhvacharya, and he was specifically empowered to again reinstate the message of the Bhagavad Gita. And so he was talking about the life of this teacher Madhvacharya. Amidst of him recollecting certain events of that person's life, Radhanath Swami started talking about the higher realms, and how Madhvacharya had descended from the higher realms.
Yeah.
And so in the middle of that talk, it's like I was entering a form of a shortcut to spiritual ecstasy, because I started feeling like, whoa, like I started chanting the mantra, and I started feeling and feeling that I was a soul. And I felt like the more I clenched my jaw,
Mm. Yeah.
the more I felt like, whoa, like I have a skull. I mean, I have a skeletal body. I could feel like my skeletal body. And I felt like at the time I was 22 years old.
Yeah.
So I felt the youthfulness of my body. But at the same time, I felt like I was something beyond that, that it was just like a temporary machine.
Yeah.
And, and so I started connecting that to that lecture that I was listening to. And I started chanting, and the mantra just felt like ever fresh. Like it felt like something sublime. Like I could taste it.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
and I started thinking like, whoa, who am I? Like who am I?
Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yeah. Because I started feeling like, why am I having these experiences? Why do I feel so in tune with my spirit?
Mm-hmm.
And so that led me on a road of that I had to learn a sense of humility after like being sober. It was like,
In what sense?
in the sense that according to my own life,
Yeah.
this again, all our lives are like interconnected like veins. And from an event, it causes like a different emotional experiences that then leads us to another event, and we see the world to a certain perspective. So for me, I had some sort of karmic trauma with my front tooth,
Mm.
because I fractured my front tooth when I was 12 years old, skating.
Okay.
And I was always afraid that I was going to lose my front tooth. That, I was in pain for 2 years, where I couldn't, as a 12-year-old, I couldn't eat from my front teeth. I had to chew from the side. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink anything cold or hot
Mm.
because my front tooth would pain.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that
so,
sounds like trauma. It definitely
yeah.
sounds like trauma.
And so at the time, when I was 12 years old, I was a liar. Like I would just lie just to pretend to be something that I wasn't. Like I lived in a certain area code when I actually lived somewhere else,
Okay.
type of lies. And so when that happened to me, I immediately connected it to karma,
Mm.
that I got that because of my lying. And so I knew that, I have to better myself as a 12-year-old. So fast forward to that shroom trip, that day that I took the shroom, I felt like I was on top of the world, but on a spiritual level. Like I felt that I was somebody special. And whenever you feel like you're better than somebody else
Yeah.
spiritually, and it becomes a massive impediment. And the next day, in a sober state of mind, just fascinated as to what I had experienced the day before, especially with that UFO. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I started noticing that my front tooth was starting to turn like a shade of gray.
Mm.
And to me, I reconnected that to my trauma of learning my lessons. And I started thinking like, whoa, it was just a hard lesson of humility as a 22-year-old.
Right.
Like that, I should be humble.
We think we know it all.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
Yeah,
We have
exactly.
it all figured out. Now I have this spiritual wisdom, philosophy wisdom. I know what's going on. I know what the world's about. Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
And so it was like just like a punch,
Mm.
a mystical punch to my face that, learn humility. And, I became more bodily conscious. It's funny because the day before I was like all like spiritually in tune, but then as soon as I became sober, it was like a lesson. Okay, you think you're so spiritually advanced.
Yeah.
What happens when your front tooth starts to look like it's about to die?
Yeah.
And it just, I became so bodily conscious.
Yeah.
I went to the dentist. She told me that because I fractured it, the tooth might be dying,
Oh, yeah.
but you could eventually bring it back to life, or like you could invigorate it, just widen it, and it'll go away.
Yeah.
And so eventually it kind of went away because I
Mm.
don't even see it anymore.
Right.
It's like that's something else to think about, the power of meditation.
And intention
Yeah,
and
intention,
mindset and all that.
mindset.
Yeah.
It's like powerful.
Right. Like if you start feeling sick and you tell yourself you're sick and all that, like you start, your body starts feeling it. Like the mind influences the body
Yeah,
very much.
yeah, it's insane. Like there's yogis that could heal their own body through breathing,
Yeah.
pranayam.
I feel like I've done that when it comes to allergies. I feel like I've done that with allergies
Wow.
where like, or hiccups.
Hmm.
Next time you have hiccups,
Wow.
next time you have hiccups, tell yourself, I no longer have hiccups. And every time I do it, the hiccups go away.
Nice.
And with allergies, yeah, I would just because I had really bad allergies.
Hmm.
Like anything would trigger it. Like dust, plants, flowers, cats for sure. And so I started I was like, wait, no, like let me not go into the usual thoughts that I go into. That my nose is gonna start itching, my eyes are gonna get watery, I'm gonna start sneezing and all that. And I would just like mentally tell myself, I don't have allergies. I don't have allergies. I'm fine. And at the same time, just breathe slow. And like in a couple minutes, I didn't have allergies. And for me, that's big
Yeah.
because I would have bad allergies, you know?
Wow.
So yeah, the mind is very powerful, man. I mean, I've heard of like tests that like they'll tell somebody like, oh, here's a pill, and the pill's nothing. And they think they feel better. And they're like, what is that, like a placebo effect?
Yeah, placebo effect.
And they come back saying like, well, the medicine didn't have anything. Okay, so all this is happening, you're having all these experiences. How does Mantra House
Yeah.
start?
So as a 23-year-old,
Yeah.
I felt like the temple is an amazing place. There's a lot of older people that are there that have been there since the 70s, that are approaching the age of 70. And I really resonate with it because, I read the Bhagavad Gita. I truly have faith in these teachings. But at the same time, every time that a person comes to the temple and perhaps they haven't had the same experiences I have, um, they might see it as like going to a museum
Okay.
where, they can't really get the sweet stuff because their mind is telling them, "Oh, I'm at a temple." It's like it doesn't resonate with them, but they're missing the bigger picture, which is the knowledge, the wisdom, the community. And so immediately I knew that we need to restart this place, like the place that I experienced at the Bhakti house. And it's funny because I started thinking that way, and my friend started telling me that. He called me one day. He's like, "Hey, there's this place that just opened up,
Mm.
and we want to have you live with us. It's right by the temple, and it's an apartment." And immediately I told him, it became an obsession because I thought about it and I was like, whoa, this is our chance to start the mantra house. I didn't want to call it the Bhakti house.
Right.
I wanted to bring the name mantra. So I said, this is our chance. And I told him the only reason why I'll move there is to start the mantra house. And it's going to be a place where we can invite our friends. I was a college student at the time. We can invite college students to learn about these ancient teachings, Bhakti Yoga, and moved in like a month later. And 3 months later, we started the mantra house from scratch every Thursday. Started off as a vegetarian dinner.
Okay, so you guys had the food
Yeah.
since the beginning. I
Yeah,
was
since the
wondering
beginning.
about that. I was like, when
Yeah.
did the food get brought in?
Yeah,
Okay.
since the beginning. And at first, we had elder members of the community speak because we wanted to give them a chance. We felt like these are elders. But we started noticing that the way that they would express this ancient wisdom
Yeah.
was kind of not related to the needs of the people at the time,
Right.
the youth.
And their experiences in life.
Yeah, and their
Right.
experiences in life, and they were already practicing for many years, and we felt like it wasn't clicking. Like the Mantra House was happening, we're cooking food, people are coming,
Yeah.
but people aren't. We're not building community, and we wanted to build community. We wanted to share our experiences, and at the same time, we wanted to create a safe space where everybody's welcome. And it's not that we wanted to go in there and like just throw the Bhagavad Gita at them and tell them to start chanting. We just wanted to create a place where it's our home base, but it's their home as well. Like anybody from the outside could come in and chant mantra meditation and have a dinner and just build camaraderie. And
When did you guys start? What year?
the year was 2016.
Okay.
2000,
2016.
2016 in March of 2016. And it just became like this is our thing. Like every Thursday, we'll invite friends and we'll have a good time. And it was just there's something about doing something out of love,
Mm.
like you can call it volunteership,
In service.
yeah, and service. That it's like an inner joy. It can be anything from like organizing, from washing dishes,
Right.
from cooking,
Yeah. Cleaning up.
yeah,
Yeah.
cleaning up, inviting people, and it just became like a high. This great high that's beyond any type of high. It's like a high of being human and giving the opportunity for somebody to come and connect. And month after month, we continued it. Then I had a good friend of mine who wanted to help out, and so with his collaboration, we moved it to a different place because our neighbors started complaining.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah,
Right. Because the mantra house is about chanting
yeah,
mantra.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there's instruments.
There's
There's
instruments.
drums. Are they called drums or what are they called?
It's called merdunga, but it's also a drum.
It's a type of drum. Okay.
Yeah.
And some bells.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
bells.
Yeah.
And so it was loud. The neighbors tolerated it for a solid 6 months.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
but then it was like enough was enough. Got a letter from the manager. So then plan B was like, okay, let's move to that house,
Yeah.
which used to be the Bhakti house. We had to speak to some managers, made it happen. And at this new house, now it wasn't really about inviting the elders, which is always nice to hear from the elders,
Yeah.
but it was mostly focused on let the young people speak.
Right.
Let it become like a space where
And what do they speak about? Like what are the
going back to those words from the beginning, innovation, essence, actuality, just the experiences of life. Many A lot of the time I give talks just like this where I talk about my experiences,
yeah.
and everybody brings their own flavor. Um, Different people from different parts of the world come and they also share their experiences. Like
Right.
last week we had Patri who spoke about integrity and his life as a monk in India for 30 years. And so we took it one step at a time where we just shared our day-to-day experiences. I did talks on my experiences with third eye meditation,
Mm.
with a sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that a couple
Yeah.
times. Yeah.
And just sharing my stories.
Cool.
And simultaneously we started clubs at different universities.
Yeah, I wanted to dig into that a little bit too because okay, so you guys were influenced by the Bhakti house,
Yeah, the Bhakti house.
and then so that's like a light tower right there of like wisdom and spirituality, and then
Yeah.
So you're doing your own thing, living your life, and now you and a group of friends are like, let's start this mantra house.
Mhm.
6 months, kind of get kicked out or
Yeah.
pushed. So you guys go to a second location,
Mhm.
and so one of the things I noticed, yeah, when the first time I went, is that it was a lot of young people. And so what's going on with that? Like, how did you guys come about influencing college students or other colleges? Where were you at that point?
So I was going to Cal State Long Beach,
Okay, so you're at Long Beach.
and I knew that I wanted to start a club there.
Okay, so you started a club there in addition to
There
what
was
you were
already one
doing
at
on Thursday.
USC.
Oh, and there was already one in
Yeah, there was
USC
already one at USC,
that was called.
the USC Music Meditation Club.
Okay, so all this is all kind of happening at the same time. Mantra House,
Yeah.
USC, and Long Beach.
Yeah, and so our friends become motivated once all you have to do in order to pursue your goals is just act.
Mm,
And all we did was just act upon our goals. I was only at Long Beach for 2 years,
okay,
and the first 3 semesters, which was already 75% of my whole experience at Cal State Long Beach, was trying to start that club.
okay.
And I was only able to get it started the last semester.
Mm,
And started that club, and then putting in the effort, it was hard. Inviting people to come speak, making cookies,
right,
organizing mantra meditation, inviting people from the school to come.
right.
It's a lot of work, and
Outreach,
yeah, outreach and people.
preparation,
Yeah,
execution.
exactly.
Yeah,
And people became inspired. Like, oh wow, my roommate was a student at UCLA. She's like, I'm gonna start a club at UCLA,
nice.
and so he started a club at UCLA. And we're once you read a book and it impacts your life, then you want to share that with others. Whether it could be any type of book. So similarly with us, we're coming from the lineage of Bhagavad Gita, inevitably Bhakti Yoga, and so we were out at these different universities sharing the experiences of Bhakti Yoga,
Yeah,
and we just kept at it, like not losing momentum,
consistent.
consistency every Thursday without fail, every Thursday without fail. Our clubs every depending on Mondays, Wednesdays, or Tuesdays
Yeah,
without fail. And you invite the students to come to Mantra House. And at the same time, you tap into other communities.
yeah,
We were tapping a lot into community healing
right.
and going to their events, um, going to the events over in Orange County,
Yeah,
um, Cosmic Consciousness,
right, right.
all these other events. And we're just
Big
there setting
events,
up, yeah, big events.
hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I would see you guys with, hey,
Yeah.
what's up? I know you guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you guys were very consistent. Definitely.
Yeah. And just having a blast because once you have, like, you have the teachers, the guides to go to whenever you need help, you have the wisdom, then we have the weapons to, share something powerful that's in
Right.
connection to consciousness, the universe, spirituality. And so we would just go to these events and just meet people, give out books.
Yeah.
And it just becomes like externally it might seem like, oh, these guys were just there giving out their religious literature.
Right.
But to us, it was like, this is knowledge. And at the same time, we're meeting hundreds and hundreds of people per day. And I'd rather be doing this than staying at home or going to a party.
Right.
It's like, it's just inexplicable the type of high, the type of life experience that you can get by just going to these events, sharing wisdom nonstop. And so it became part of the culture
Mm-hmm.
to go to these events and invite people to come to Mantra House
Yeah.
and have our clubs and invite people to Mantra House.
So currently, which schools or which clubs are you guys affiliated with?
We have UCLA, USC, Cal State Long Beach.
Yeah.
We
And
did
what
have one
days?
at LMU. Mondays is USC.
Okay.
Tuesdays it used to be LMU, but they're having massive COVID restrictions.
I see.
USC is on Mondays, UCLA is Wednesdays, and Cal State Long Beach is on Thursdays now.
And Mantra House.
Mantra House is on Thursdays.
Mantra House Thursdays 7.
Yeah, 7:15.
7:15. Oh man, and I forget her name, but the chef that was at the last
Oh
Mantra
yeah,
House.
Atoya.
What is it?
Atoya.
Atuya
Yeah.
does not miss.
Oh,
She can start her own restaurant if she's not already. She is she does magic every single time, and not just like for a couple of us. It's for a good amount of people would attend, right? On
yeah.
average, how much would you say would attend?
On average, I would say maybe 30 to 40
30 to 40,
on
and she was
bigger
feeding all of
days.
us
Yeah.
not just no delicious food, and it was always different.
Yeah,
Shout out to her, she's
definitely.
awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, we miss her so much because now she's at a community in Long Beach.
Okay,
She's cooking for them every Saturday.
nice, that's
Yeah,
cool. They're blessed over there.
definitely.
Yeah,
And so
that's
now
what's
we
up.
have a new cook and he's learning from Atoya.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's what's up, man.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you guys have been consistent. So it's lecture, mantra, food, community.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Mhm. And it's not like we're forcing people like, oh, you have to read the Gita or you have to do this. It's
Right.
just whoever comes, like, just come connect with us
Yeah, yeah,
and,
for sure.
and let us connect with you
Yeah,
and just build. That's why we're having this podcast here.
yeah,
Like, you came to Mantra House, we connected.
yep. It's a lighthouse, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna ask you one more question.
Hmm.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
5 years,
Yeah,
realistically, I probably see myself married, um, perhaps going into my first child. And
that's beautiful, man.
yeah, I mean, right now it's like a dream,
Yeah.
but I realistically, I just see that within the next 5 years, and also focusing on projects, building projects, probably beginning to build projects at a level of Mantra House in different places. And one of my goals is to, create a sanctuary out in nature.
Mm.
A place where you can grow your own food.
Where do you see that happening?
I see that honestly, probably Northern California.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of land up there.
Yeah, somewhere with a river access
Ooh, now we're talking.
and just an escape from the city life
Yeah,
because it's artificial.
yeah. I'll
And
tell you what, man, if you stay consistent with the way you have been, I definitely see that happening. I definitely see myself
uh,
there.
yeah, that's a goal, to create a sanctuary
Yeah.
where a place where you can escape the illusions of material civilization
Hmm.
because you know it's just ingrained in us that now we're stuck to our phones. Like, we build a life through social media, and it's a powerful tool,
Hmm.
but it's also a massive distraction. And so we always have to keep to our roots. And the Vedas talk about that there's three primary energies: the mode of goodness, sattva guna; the mode of passion, rajaguna; and the mode of ignorance, tamaguna. And these energies are like ever present in different forms within the material atmosphere. And the city is like a mixture of the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance.
Mm.
Obviously, it depends on your consciousness. You can make something, and you could create a heaven in anywhere that you're at.
Right.
But for the most part, the energies of the city sort of put you in this passionate mode. But out in nature, it's like it's so easy for us to tap out, to to plug, to unplug.
And then plug into nature
Yeah, plug into nature
and
and
spirit
exactly,
and earth.
exactly.
Yeah.
and and so it's a way of life that we have to create these beautiful sanctuaries in nature so that it can recharge us to go to the city and share knowledge.
That's beautiful, man. We'll leave it at that, man. That's a great way to end this session. Anything you want to add?
Well, I'm super thankful to be here in your podcast for as the first guest.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming in. The official name of the podcast
Mhm.
is Point of No Return.
Point of no return.
Yeah, because once we awaken, once we start moving a certain direction, there's no returning. Once you take that pill, and once you start seeing truth and awareness and realizing certain things about life, like there is no returning back to like ignorance or closing your eyes again, you know?
Exactly.
So that was my intention behind that title. And yeah, man, thanks. And thanks for doing everything you do. You inspire a lot of people. Like you're just quiet and humble, but you're such a powerhouse. Your voice, your journey. I mean, and I believe that like it's not all like butterflies and rainbows, you know? You know
Definitely,
that. You
definitely.
know your experience and what you've
Yeah,
gone
of
through.
course.
No, no, like this is life. We're on earth.
Yeah.
Like it's a yin and a yang and there's a lot that happens and um first we experience anger sometimes and then we experience like truth and then we can experience love and wisdom, you know,
Yeah.
and hopefully that's where we lead ourselves and hopefully our families. And I know that's exactly what you guys are trying to do, like you and your community. I know you're just one person,
Yeah,
and I know
exactly.
you got a bunch of people supporting you and organizing with you and being consistent on a daily basis. And that's awesome, man. Thanks for doing what you
Thank
do,
you.
man. We appreciate you.
I'm thankful.
All right. Peace,
Peace.
love.
Love.
What else? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you.